Thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Love of Life podcast. And he's back with us tonight. It's Mark Horne. He's going to talk with us tonight about his incredible transformation that he's had, everything from a stroke to strength training coming up on the Love of Life podcast.
Christian education, because it serves him who says, I am the way, the truth, and the light, is the love of life.
This is the Love of Life podcast, conversations with Jesse and Courtney. Okay, and we're back. Mark, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast to talk to us.
Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Courtney and I met you roughly 2 years ago at church, and you've always been relatively in this particular shape. And I don't know if it was you or someone else that at one point said, well, did you know what Mark Horne looked like about 10 years ago? And I didn't know about your stroke. We didn't know about, the things that you had gone through physically. And so, yeah, it really was like, no, we had no idea. And I think you or someone showed us a picture, and it was like, wow, you have really come a long way, transforming your body. What was the stroke itself? And I guess you can kind of talk about that. Maybe we can talk about point of origin here, which was you had a stroke in what year and how much did you weigh? And tell us about that.
Yeah, let's hope I get this right. I believe the stroke is going on 7.5 years ago. All right, it'll be I think October 10th will be the next stroke anniversary. It'll be my 8th stroke anniversary, which is a word I made up, but you know what I mean. Yeah, that is actually other people use it. So to answer your question, no, that's not the point of origin.
Okay.
It was about a year and a half before, and that's important because I couldn't have had the kind of ambitions and blind faith and plan that I had if that hadn't already become my life. So this actually is a really good question. So stop me when you get bored and have something else to ask me. Okay.
Okay.
But a couple years before, I thought I was going to be making a pretty good money as a freelance writer because I had a particular client. I did make pretty good money, but it made me think about some things, and I've been living kind of hand to mouth. And I thought about I should do something, anything. It was like random. I should develop something that's just a hobby. It's just to get better at something. And I considered I have friends who are into shooting, but that was no matter. I mean, I didn't make that kind of money. It seemed too expensive. It seemed like kind of prohibitive. So I didn't do that. And I thought about, well, what about a martial art or something like that? Like Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something. And I looked around at that. Yeah, it just seemed too much time, too much money, And I just decided to do the easy thing. I joined a commercial gym for $10 a month. Then maybe $20 when I got the full membership, but real cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into the gym, and I looked like those pictures.
How much did you weigh around that time? Do you remember how much you weighed?
The earliest recorded weight I have is 243.
243. And you're roughly 5'10", 5'9". How tall are you?
I thought most of my life I was 5'10". I think I was 5'9" because I never really made it that way. I took it on faith that I would, get that far and didn't bother to measure myself or confirm or deny it. No, I was 5'9", and I'm probably 5'8" now.
Okay.
I get these very disconcerting measurements now, and people tell me things I don't want to hear. So yeah. So I don't think 243 was my heaviest, but that's the heaviest, like the time I started weighing myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you notice I didn't say anything about wanting to be healthy or get healthy or become better or anything. I said nothing about that. Because that was something I thought might be good. I went to join the gym, so I wanted to get better in some way. I was not concerned about anything. And I think that's ironic because I don't know that I would have just shamelessly joined a gym and just started working out if I had been kind of self-aware. I think that, being self-aware in some ways is a dangerous thing. It doesn't actually inspire action. It inspires discouragement. So I I'm just telling you, that's just take that for what it's worth. My story is, you know,
You wanted a
um,
hobby.
now are you? What's that? Oh yeah, I want a hobby. That's right. So
So did you know what
and
you were
so
doing when you walked into the gym, or did you have to figure that out? And was strength training the first thing you tried?
yeah, for about well, it was always some version of strength training, probably with some cardio thrown in because CrossFit was more influential then than it is now, and some other things. Nerd Fitness had just kind of started up as an internet presence, and I'd read an article where he talked about how great it was, the guys in the movie The 300, the horrifically violent movie, right? How they did all these exercises in imbalanced ways, So I started trying to do push-ups on like a Bosu disc thing that, because that was a bunch of silly stuff that
And this is pre-stroke,
anyway.
right, Mark? This is
Yeah,
pre-stroke.
this is all pre-stroke. This is
Okay.
over a year pre-stroke.
Okay.
But I want to say, so I heard of something called strong lifts, and the idea that you would do a barbell movement and the next time you'd go in and do it again and just put 5 pounds in the bar, 5 pounds more.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that kind of stuff. Now that's kind of a silly program in some ways. There's some problems with it, but it actually got me thinking about stuff like getting stronger every day or every week, getting stronger, being able to stand up with your body weight in your hand or twice your body weight in your hand, which I've done now. That that there was such a thing as a squat, which I had never done. It had been something weird thing I'd seen Arnold do on that movie, Pumped, whatever
Pumping iron.
that movie was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pumping Iron. So,
Mhm.
and I think anyway, I don't want to say anything else about it, but the point is, so I basically started squatting 3 times a week, deadlifting every other session, so twice or once, so 1.5 on average times a week. And doing and bench press and doing overhead press. Later on, I found starting strength, which was a little bit less volume, but a little bit more knowledgeable program, but not as much as I thought. And I still, follow those accounts. I mean, so basically, I don't, you haven't shown any of my before or afters yet. And you see, this was never about losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't stress this was never about losing weight. Now, I stumbled on some keto propaganda or paleo primal. That was pretty big then, and I actually did make some progress on that.
Mm-hmm.
By that, I altered my diet, and I don't eat that way anymore, so I don't endorse that. But it did break all my eating habits.
Mm.
I mean, it just broke, and I didn't think of as habits. I didn't think getting hungry was a habit. I did, to some extent, was malleable. So that was something else going on. So my weight did start to trend downward.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually started counting calories because I decided I did need to lose a little weight. But at the same time, at every point, I did know that food was really important, and I wanted to eat it because I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to not regress on these lifts, which I was continuing to make progress in. And I think that's really one I want to bring home here is that I was not thinking. You talking about my transformation? Honestly, that I kind of stumbled into that. Let me put it this way: when we get to the stroke, right?
Uh-huh.
I lost another 20 pounds having the stroke. I did not like that. I did not want anything to do with that. I had starting strength propaganda was that an adult male is a person who weighs 200 pounds, and I didn't let the fact that I was 5'8" kind of change that or make me question that at all at the time. So, I could see, I thought about sending you a picture of if I could find one with just me just after the stroke, but, I could see too much clavicle here and I looked weak.
Sure.
Didn't like to look weak. I mean, it's more important that you are strong, but the other thing is you like to look strong. So anyway, it sends signals to yourself, whatever. So I basically, after the stroke, got back up to 230, and then kind of, looked at footage of me doing deadlifts in a t-shirt, white like undershirt one day, and said, man, that's probably time I should cut back. My lifts were going up again, and this time I had enough knowledge, and I just threw away the entire keto paleo thing and just high protein, plenty of carbs. I mean, basically a protein floor, a calorie ceiling. In other words, only so many calories, but only always this much protein. And then try to use fiber, and I became impossible to cook for. I mean, like, anytime my dear wife wanted to cook me a casserole, I'd be like, well, how am I going to weigh this? Because that's it. I went the full thing and bought a food scale, and it become really easy to get along with. Let me tell you. So that's sarcasm, by the way.
Yes. I recognized it.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, so I did that because I knew I'd want to gain weight again, and I can't. It'd get ridiculous. So I wanted to trim back so I could keep going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of trimmed back, and I kind of liked it a little bit better than I had been. And I kind of then started rethinking the 200-pound limit. So after 200 pounds, I kept thinking, well, maybe 10 more pounds. And so I basically got under $155, like sometime in October of this year.
Wow.
That was some of that was unintentional. You think you found maintenance, and all of a sudden you're trending downwards again. So maybe you walk more or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then just fill out the information at the end of this. At the end of excuse me, at the beginning, the first week of November, I was about 155.35 on a weekly average. I take my weight every day, but then just look at the average. So yeah, I'm now controlling all this. Yes, it's totally neurotic,
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly. And so I have gained 15 pounds, which I stopped my bulk like 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to try to maintain this for 2 months and then go back down to something.
Sure.
Hopefully not all the way back down to 155, but we'll see. We'll just see. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, that was all unintentional. I stumbled into that. And by the way, and I got lots weaker. I mean, when I got down to 200, I, for the first time, pulled 400 pounds, one time for the deadlift PR. I never got that weight again. Now at 158, I pulled 327 times. So, that's, double body weight. I've done that multiple times. If you want to give me credit for relative kind of things. Mm-hmm. But, all of this is to say, there was something I was wanting to get to before the stroke, before I knew the stroke was going to happen. And before I looked different, I looked a little bit different, but no one was noticing. No one was saying much. No one was caring, and that's fine. I mean, my life, not theirs. I sent you a picture of me with my dad right before he passed. There's a picture of me just dressed in black.
Okay.
I mean, the reason I sent you that picture, though, I wanted you to, compare that to my before and afters. I felt amazing. I mean, I was stronger than I'd ever been in my life, as far as I knew. I mean, I was, and I'm not even that, powerlifters would scoff at my numbers, and I don't know what my numbers should be. I mean, I don't know a lot of 48-year-olds who started lifting for the first time, at least barbell lifting for the first time, powerlifting kind of moves for the first time. Mm-hmm. At my age demographic and my genetics and my height and weight. So I just don't know how to say, and it's not about comparing myself to other people unless I'm just saying I was stronger than I'd ever been. And two, I had something to do that I was going to do for the rest of my life, as far as at least as long as God allowed me to do it, that made me stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if I get to the point where I start just losing strength, well, fine, I'll lose it as slowly as possible. You're going to have to pry for my fingernails. Each 5 pounds off the bar. and it made you more energetic. I mean, it's kind of like all of a sudden I don't have to think about getting up, and all of a sudden I'm out of the chair this instead of like remembering how I used to groan or get up. I mean, now by the way, with age, like I get stiff. I mean, not everything gets solved by the barbell, but it is like in a lot of ways, I was traveling backwards in time biologically
Mm-hmm.
in
Yep.
a lot of ways. I mean, it was just, and and that's before I lost a lot of the weight. And like I said, I lost a lot of the strength when I lost the weight. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's no other way to put it. And obviously I had a stroke. I mean, we just mentioned that. And so yeah, when I
How
had the
catas
stroke,
how hold on a second. How catastrophic was the stroke? Like how bad, what was the degree of how bad that was?
so I'm better now, so not that much. But yeah, I could barely move anything on my right side.
Wow.
Now I had no problems with nerve like feeling perception. Like I didn't have anything like that. It was purely motor units, motor area of the brain. Um, my speech was pretty good. I didn't have to do much speech therapy. They didn't know they kicked me out. So, but yeah, I was like the claw like in the Toy Story game, and the game, the coin operated claw. That was how I lifted. The first
Wow.
week in rehab. I mean, I had to control everything. I mean, I could just pick up something with my left hand without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And with my right hand, I had to mathematically calculate the spatial dimensions of every single finger. I was joking, but it's like, Max Wing Pilot, my R2 unit has been hit. I've got to do it all manually. And it's really hard. And also, when I could stand, and if I didn't forget to remember to tense my knee, I would stay standing. The moment I got distracted by anything, my knee would suddenly fold under me. I
Wow.
mean, I would catch it and stand back up. So that was all gone, or mostly gone. And it got better kind of quickly. And I had hopes. I mean, maybe I had hope. Maybe it was a rational hope, or maybe I just couldn't contemplate being that way forever. I mean, after the first or second night, when I started seeing some improvements, I mean, the first night I thought my life was over because I knew it. So, but you see, this is the thing. I, I mean, the people who cared for me were very diligent and educated people. I'm not sure how much the physical therapy kind of stuff did for me. I
Mm-hmm.
healed up a little bit. I got to the point. I came home. I walked with a cane. I walked a lot with a cane. I had even a walker, but you can't use a walker in my house. There's no room for it, so I ended up just using a 4-footed cane. And I would I'd walk a ways. I was just stuck at home. My wife had a job that had took her out of the house, so I was by myself all the time. Kids were at school, and my gait was all lopsided, but it was getting better. And so my birthday, um, 48, for my 48th birthday, Club Fitness, where I had my membership, is across the road from me. It's across the intersection. So without telling anyone, I left my cane at home and just walked to my gym, which I hadn't been in a month. And I didn't bring my cane just because I didn't want anyone paying attention to the fact that I was like, hobbling or walking weird or whatever. And because of my birthday, they immediately like said happy birthday to me and scared me because that meant they were watching me and stuff. I didn't like that. Anyway, so I go in there and I just squatted the bar and I did a overhead press the bar because I could get my feet in place to
Uh-huh.
stand, you know. And I they had these 10-pound plastic plates. So I was able to do a deadlift for 65 pounds, 45-pound bar and two 10-pound discs. And 2 days later, I went and did that again with 5 pounds more on the bar. And by March, or maybe it was May, I had squatted 275 pounds for 5 which was better than anything I'd gotten to before the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew absolutely objectively that I was stronger than I'd ever been before the stroke, at least to the extent that a squat determines that or can it tests for that. And I was deadlifting more than I ever had before. And meanwhile, I mean, I look over in my room one time and saw my cane standing there in the corner and could not remember the last time I'd used it. And I got completely better. Um,
Wow.
so I mean, technically, like if I carry a drink in my right hand instead of my left, I notice a little bit more disturbance in the liquid if I'm holding them in my right hand. So there's stuff that's asymmetric and may have been from the stroke, though of course we're all asymmetric and I'm just paranoid about it now. So who knows if that's really from the stroke or just me. Um so
So the
God was really
total,
good for me. Good to
so
me. Yeah, go ahead.
the total recovery time on that then was how long from the stroke to the time you walked back into club fitness and then you progressed? What was that time period?
Well, the time I walked back into club fitness was only a couple of months.
Just a few months.
Um
Okay.
yeah, just a couple of months, but I wasn't walking normally and yeah, and by the way, I used club fitness for the other things. They like went to the room with all the mirrors because someone was using it for dance class or whatever, and I just walked trying to make my gait normal, looking at getting video, eye feedback. So I did some things like that. I noticed that when I tried to do a jump squat at home, because I was trying to come up with exercises to do before I walked to the gym, my right leg, the affected side, would like mule kick the floor rather than land soft, and let me bend the knees to do another one. And I started doing something called a push press, which is where you kind of jump with a bar and push it up, instead of just a strict overhead press. I did a few of those, and that corrected itself. That was what I needed to do. I had this faith, and I don't think it was scientific, and I don't necessarily. I think it's worth trying, if you can. But I had this faith since a lot of strength training involves just neurological adaptations. Um, that it would help my brain rewire. I
Mm.
mean, my brain was trying to, I guess, move the people in the new offices or whoever was the little guys there who do my navigation for my different finger parts and limbs and stuff. And I thought that would encourage the process, and I was right. I can't prove that that's going to happen to everyone, and there are plenty of people who get more permanently devastated, and so they can't even hold, like they never can't. They've got to wear a glove. I mean, they find strength training benefits them too, but they don't. I mean, I was very blessed and fortunate. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
so I have a picture of me. I'm sorry, I have a picture of me a couple months after, like February, shoveling snow in my driveway because we needed the snow to be shoveled. Before the stroke, I never took pictures of myself shoveling snow. That was not selfie material. I was really excited to be useful. So it
Yeah.
was a blessing to be able to use my limbs. And anyway, so yes, your question. I'm sorry.
yeah, so obviously some benefits you've already stated. You think that strength training was a huge part of your recovery. It's given you more energy. Are there other benefits that you can point to from this time of starting?
Well, so I mean, I've just read reviews. If you go online, you'll find allegedly there's mental benefits, and I don't want to. I feel like I'm setting myself up to disappoint you if I say that I've benefited greatly mentally. I hope I have. I mean, who knows what it'd be like without that, right? So I think so. And there's supposed to be like bone hardening stuff, bone thickening, mineral bone density is positively affected. Um, but also the optimism that comes from being on a program and knowing that you're always going to be pursuing this and feeling
Mhm.
like you're getting better. Like I said, eventually, I mean, I'm not promising. I know I'm going to die, so there's no immortal like delusions here. But still, like in the stroke, I wanted to go home. I want to get away from my physical therapist, who, God bless them, they're wonderful people, and I wanted to get under the barbell again. I knew that would help in some
Yeah.
way, and then I did it, and I did it again. And it's weird because I think, in a sense, the stroke, actually kind of put my weird hobby out of this weird hobby what's Mark doing category into, oh, this is good for him. It's therapy.
Mhm.
He should be doing this. It is therapy. Everyone who should look into it. I mean, you do what you want to do, but I almost got carried away there. I apologize, but I
No, that's
want
a
people
good
to consider.
question. That's a good question
I
to
was
ask,
thinking
though.
that
No,
too.
Is it for everyone? I mean, shouldn't we all be kind of taking care
okay,
of our bodies to some extent, even if we're not doing strength
okay.
training?
Look, Jesse, if you want to say so, I think I
I'll
would
say
kind of
so.
want to agree with you.
I'll say
But
so, and you can agree.
wait. But the thing is, look, okay. Lately, I've heard a lot of pastors commenting on this. I have nothing to say to you as a pastor about whether you should watch Netflix. I mean, I might have something to say if you ask and about specifics, but in general, right? I am not your life coach. And, to a certain extent, when I talk about strength training, I mean, I'm talking about something that I have nothing to say from Jesus about it. Okay. And
Sure.
it's kind of important to say that. And certainly that's why, the weight part, I even want to say less about that. Now I'll talk about it, but I just want to be clear. Talking about my experience, we can talk about what we think we know about health and stuff, and we can talk about how things might make positive changes in people's lives. But people have to figure out what works for them, how it fits. I've done more things wrong than right to get better. I don't actually believe in the stuff that got me started on the weight loss stuff. The keto and the paleo and the bulletproof diet and the butter that I used to put in my coffee and all that. I mean, I did the whole thing, and I kind of think that was anyway. Some people might say that's why I had a stroke. I mean, the fact is, no one knows why I had a stroke, but still, there's
Yeah.
these questions. So, um, I do think this: everybody has a skeleton that they control with their muscles, and people can keep that stuff running and improving a lot longer than their youth. It's not just for college students. It's not just for teenagers. In fact, I mean, we get all our perceptions about the barbell and about strength training in general. You notice, by the way, we haven't even talked about machines and dumbbells, which up until about a year ago, I would pretty much spit on. So, there, you don't want me doing that. You wouldn't want me doing that, right? That'd be a mistake. Um, I've gotten over some of my superstitions, I think, barbell superstitions. But look,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So you guys see, I've grown as a person. That's why I try to be a little bit less dogmatic. So, golly, where were you? Oh, everyone's everyone has to do stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I know. I mean, there's a YouTube video about a pastor talking about some parishioner asked, "Do I have to go to the gym? I don't like it." And of course, if he had just said no, you don't have to, and left it at that, I wouldn't have been so enraged. But he started talking about how, oh no, you can spend your time memorizing Bible verses. I'm like, shut up. She's asking if she can watch more Netflix. You know that's what's going on here. No one's doing that. That's not a thing. And then he talked about how, well, there's a guy in our church who's a fireman, and he needs his strength training because he's required to for his job. Be your own fireman. You don't have to wait for someone to get you out of a burning building. Don't get decrepit when you don't have to be. So, all right.
That's good. That's good.
People can get stronger than they know,
Yes.
and they can do it without really that much time and effort. And I mean, the thing about the barbell that was nice was I could do the math. Now, this is actually a fallacy, but it still was a nice psychological boost. I could say, why is it so easy to go up the stairs now? Oh, I know. I can squat more than my body weight for multiple times. So that means everything is half as hard as it used to be. Just everything gets easier in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Now, people who have done this their whole lives, I guess, don't realize that. But, for me, it was like, it's just dramatic. I really felt it.
Yeah.
And so, do I think it's for everyone? Biologically, it's available. It's like the most baseline thing you can do to improve yourself. And What do you want to prove at? Well, maybe all of a sudden you'll want to go outside more. This is the thing. You talk about losing weight. I mean, get people to like doing stuff and feel capable, and maybe that other stuff will open up to them. Like that's really how it happened to me. I mean, I'm basically think about gaining and losing weight is basically a subservient issue to improving on strength training. Now that won't be everyone's story, but I'm just saying it it's a transformative thing to do.
It is.
And I worked at a retirement home. A couple trying to look after one another while they both have to use walkers. That's a hard thing to watch, especially when it's not, and 9 times out of 10, it's avoidable.
You're right.
I mean, it's avoidable, and the people will be happier.
Mm-hmm.
They only knew that. And so, the way I feel about it is that, I get to train. God's allowed me. I get to do this. That's an amazing privilege. I cannot believe I wasn't aware of it sooner. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And
So for somebody who maybe has never done strength training, but they're thinking, hey, that sounds pretty good. You can have these goals and set them. You can be stronger, not even hung up on the weight or where it's going to take you, but just get stronger. Where do you think they should start? Especially because you made some mistakes beginning. What's your suggestion with all that you know now? How to begin?
well, first of all, I made some mistakes in the beginning, maybe, but they weren't bad mistakes. They were better than doing nothing. So
Yeah, you learned.
that's the one thing I'd say that's very important. Two, and this is where you might chime in, Jesse. I mean, I've realized that people do it other ways. So if someone wants to go to the gym and just use machines, that would be a good thing. If you can afford a gym membership, if it's convenient to you, all right. You go and you use the machines or you use dumbbells, you look up some program, any program, and you start doing it.
Yep.
And you do it a certain number of days a week, and you get in the habit of doing that and being there. And once that habit is in place, then you can say, well, wait a minute, is this really, maybe I'm not liking this as much, or seeing, kind of feeling, getting these incredible experiences that Mark Horne has talked about, it's promising to everyone, right? Well, then you can change what you do.
Right.
But you've already got in place that you're showing up and you're doing something. Now, look, if you can get into a barbell program like I'm talking about, it begins with kind of the idea of linear progression. Now, that's kind of a myth, but it's a psychological boost. That's the idea where you're going to add 5 pounds to the bar, like every time or once a week or something like that. All right. And the nice thing about that is it worked at first and it's addictive and you're stronger than you were before because you're doing more than you could do before, or at least more than you were willing to try before. I mean, that's the trick. You probably could have done it, but anyway. So you kind of adapt. You learn there's kind of a skill involved. So you learn that. And so I would say, like, the number one resource I would recommend right now, and I'm not recommending them on anything but as a training program or training advice, is barbell medicine. And that's a website, barbellmedicine.com. They have a free beginners program. They also have an app which they use to sell programs, but they also let you use it for whatever you want to do. You put in your exercises, record what you do, keep a log. But you can get their free training program on their free app, and then you can look at sample some of the other programs they have. And I think they're the best as far as how to do this with barbells. There are other good ones. So that's, I'm assuming that the listener who's watching the video probably has access to a smartphone, and that's all you need. So that's one. I mean, now another guy I kind of listened to for another organization that I kind of use for some information is Renaissance Periodization. Now,
Can you say that name one more time?
Oh, sorry. Renaissance Periodization. The stroke did affect my speech a little bit. Anyway, Renaissance Periodization.
Okay.
And
It's a big word.
Look, Yeah, I know. Basically, I think the key is you do things in different stages and go different blocks, and so they have a different philosophy. And if for some reason you want to do more machines and aren't embarrassed, like kind of pursuing things like muscular size versus strength, which they kind of are two different things. You kind of have to start alternating between one and the other eventually. So you can do it right away if you want. Um, he's got some playlists that are relatively clean of his otherwise foul language. So warning there. But his playlists I think are pretty clean, and on playlists on strength training made simple, hypertrophy made simple. Now he has a whole different setup. It's not with barbells primarily, and it's machines, and you can decide. And he's like a self-admitted, you know, steroid using bodybuilder. I mean, he's as wide as he is tall. He's not very tall, but anyway, he's a nice guy. I mean, as that goes, but and very helpful and very, I think, wants to give good information to people to help them out. And but he's also got a lot of advice for eating and how to eat healthy, how to maybe start losing weight, and advice on how to when not to lose weight, when to stop it and try to take a break and then go back to it, and all this stuff. So he sells an app and the whole thing. I don't know anything about his app, but he's got some pretty good information. So Renaissance periodization, they say it right that,
Perfect.
and that's a secondary source. But if the barbells don't work for you, or you're intimidated or something, or you just want to use the machines in your gym, you don't have access to them. You only have access to dumbbells or something. You want to get more generic kind of advice that would fit into that. I would say look at him. Um, and basically in that case, what you do is you do sets, you do reps until you're within spitting distance of figuring you're not going to be able to do anymore, and you stop and take a break and you do it again. So that's my real scientific explanation for what you do. But and I've been doing some of that actually during my bulk. I put away the barbells for a while and just did machines and dumbbells. Mainly because no one advises using dumbbells deadlifts for volume work, because you get too tired out, and you as a physical being get too tired out before your muscles really have gotten enough stimulus. So the idea is that you don't use them. I don't know that's true, by the way. All this science is kind of debated and murky.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless,
Yeah.
if you get started and keep going, you're not gonna like you're not gonna stay unchanged.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do want as you see, to me, barbells or strength training, it is like a retirement plan. I mean, you're doing this because you're an adult who wants to stay active. And you can, I do other things like I take long walks and stuff like that. But the strength training just cannot be overstated. It's not valued as it should be relative to other forms of exercise. So
Sure.
I'm trying to correct that single-handedly.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about food, because food is a huge aspect to gaining or losing weight. Are you still tracking your calories? And if so, do you use a specific app or do you write things down? How are you tracking your calories?
Yeah, I often wonder what my life would be like if I didn't have this little NSA tracker that I can carry around in my, pocket, and at
Yeah.
least I'm getting some good out of it with it while it's spying on me.
They know what you eat.
Yeah, they do. Oh man. So I was using my Fitness Pal for a long time, and I would pretty much recommend that. But they moved their bar scanner over to the paywall behind the paywall last
Um,
year, and that offended me deeply. Um,
and you don't want to pay for
so
the app?
I don't want to pay for I think they charge too much. I mean, it's a good app, but it's not a. So I use I found something called Macro Factor, I think, which anyway, it lets me scan stuff. I mean, the scanner is inaccurate half the time anyway. I don't know why, but that's what I use. But yeah, I use an
Okay.
app. There's other apps. I use a calorie counting app. I started just monitoring protein and calories, and then when that became like totally second nature, I started thinking about making sure I got enough fiber in the day and didn't get more than 10% of my calories from saturated fat. And there's some other stuff, but that, I don't know how much of that is absolutely true versus the consensus. I don't know what to think about that. I just figure, I just, you know, whatever. I'm not a food scientist. At some point, you just got to trust somebody, or, I follow it because it's easier to do that than not to, and worry that I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
But you know, Mike Isertel, the guy at Renaissance Periodization, he, I think he's the one who gave me the idea. Said that you're do best if you keep your fast between zero point 0.3 and zero point 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. I have no idea if he's right. He's got a PhD. He's been doing this for a long time. He's giving lots of people advice who are very, whatever, physically, you know, obviously, by the way, actually, let me just break in here since I haven't said anything about it yet. I don't want to admit that I know that the fitness industry is a morass of like public nudism and junk. I mean, I
Sure.
know that. I mean,
Sure.
all right, it's just sure that's got to be understood. I
You're not
mean,
a nudist though, right?
no, I'm not. I don't even like taking off my shirt. There we go. Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because you see all these females who are like talking about how weightlifting has changed their lives, and a lot of them escaped anorexia because once they had a barbell in their hands, they had a reason to think, oh, maybe I should eat, and they started eating, and But at the same time, I think they all talk about their mental health issues. I'm like, well, yeah, people are supposed to not be so exposed all the time. You just, you want to be, that's not healthy. I don't know how to tell people that, so I don't keep my mouth shut. But um, anyway, guys actually more likely just to wear sweatpants and large t-shirts and that kind of thing. So, um, my point is, I know it's shallow. I know there's a lot of things wrong with it. But the point is, you shouldn't let that keep you from what is a really good medicine and really good intervention in your life to make you feel better and do more and change your attitudes. I mean, I'll say one other thing. I mean, I remember I walked out of Walmart one day. This was after the stroke. And I had a flat tire, and I'm like, oh, I used to be able to change a tire, but that was 20 years ago, and now I'm used to having a service do it for me because it came with mobile phones, insurance. You started getting these roadside assistance became so easy. Well, guess what? We had just changed insurance companies and we didn't have roadside assistance. I thought, oh, I'm gonna call Jennifer and complain about this. I thought, you spend probably 6 to 9 hours a week strength training. You better have something to show for it. And I got down on my hands and knees, got the donut out, and I changed the tire. I mean, the donut turned out I'd never seen it before. It'd been years, and it wasn't flat, so that was good. So I got my son to come and get the frozen food, so that was taken care of, and I changed the tire. And it's not that, I mean, that probably reveals more bad things about me than good that I would even think about whining or whatever. But my point is, you know, wherever you're at, when you start training, you start realizing you're supposed to be useful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you already know that. Maybe you don't need a reminder. But I'm saying that how it affected me. I started becoming much more open to the idea that I'm supposed to do things for people or for myself or whatever. And I just
Yeah.
um
And you can't do that if you're immobile or not physically able to at a certain point in your life. And for many
yeah.
people, many Americans specifically that we see, they get to the point where there's a vast amount of immobility going on, not to mention the food thing. I mean, we don't really take into account, many of us, what we're consuming. And as a result, I mean, it's blowing us up in a lot of ways, but then it's making us feel more fatigued. It's slowing us down. It's giving us bad health because in a lot of ways, we're not taking into account just what we're consuming physically with
Well,
the food.
I'd agree. I mean, of course, there's all these debates about what that should be and all that, and I've made my peace with what I'm doing now. Um, and the problem is you get into community, you get into fellowship and food in the Bible and all those things. And I know that's a big deal. I will say this. Well, look, if you feel better, there'll be more community. There'll be more fellowship. I mean, all those things get better if you feel better. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I would suggest putting the strength training piece of it first and seeing how that starts changing your other attitudes and making other things possible. That'd be my advice. I mean, because otherwise it would have been, oh, I have to give up eating the food I like. That's no fun. And that would have been it. Me enduring hunger or what I thought was hunger. And it just, you know, and then there's the other thing I will piece of advice I give to people. If anyone's listening to this and wants the body composition transformation piece of it more than the strength, and obviously, I eventually slowed down my strength training or my actual accomplishments in order to do that. So I have some sympathy for that. I hope I get it all back. I really do. But anyway, but also to look at it as I want to make myself a better version of myself. Not I want to join the skinny club, because that you don't have to belong in any club. You don't have to become normal. And besides, and when you become normal, what are you going to do? Stop training, stop caring about it because now you've become, no, you're going to say, well, how can I get better? At least I think you should say that. You say, and I mean, and I don't mean like that, like you're always, I don't, look, I don't talk about killing it or grinding or, getting thrashed or whatever. I don't do that. That's not how I train. I mean, granted, like the heavy set's going to be hard. How long does a heavy set last? Not very long.
Yeah.
All right. And the subsequent sets, you're a little fatigued, so they're hard. But I don't do this. I mean, when I leave the gym, I can go home and just be myself and do other work, and you know. So I'm just saying that. I mean,
Well, you're
revival
kill.
medicine. I'm not talking about what people think of. They think of CrossFit or something like that. I'm not talking about that.
Uh-huh.
So, but you can incrementally change yourself,
Sure.
and you'll be happier,
Yeah.
and you might be more effective in different aspects of your life. And I think that's worth considering. It's not mandatory. I'm not anyone's, lord. All right. I just think it should be considered.
Absolutely.
And you brought up an interesting point with food, and like you have certain goals, and so you want to eat a certain way to support those. But there is this aspect of community and eating with your family. Have you sorted through some of what that looks like? Are you more lenient at certain times when you're fellowshipping with other people? Do you take that into account?
Well, yeah, I do. I would suggest though. I'm trying to think of what I was like when I was cutting, and I think probably my memory has done me the service of cutting out all the unpleasant aspects of myself from that, from that period. I mean, now I think of it like I'm skipping a rock. I mean, I'm monitoring my food sometimes, but sometimes I'm not, but I'm weighing myself. I keep the weight going, and again, by the way, some people think weighing yourself every day is like some kind of neurotic fixation. I don't pay attention to it. I just want the weekly average. I just want the trend line, and you can't have a trend line if you don't have data. So I'm not, I don't, I really ignore it kind of. I just put it in my health app and move on with my life. But the point is, so right now, I can just kind of make exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen to when I said I was bulking. I started bulking in November. So what do you think there was? It was Thanksgiving, my birthday, my anniversary, Christmas, New Year's. And then I went on. You think bulking would be easy. You think gaining weight is easy. I tell you, a couple of weeks I backslid. I could not keep it up. I don't know what. Anyway, because those meals where I didn't track, actually ate less than I meant to instead of more, because I guess when you're like stuffed full, you do the opposite of what you do when you're cutting. Where you underestimate the amount of food you're eating. Anyway,
Right.
so I don't. All I can say is, here's what I would tell someone: you're not doing this forever, or at least not this element of it. You're not doing that forever.
You're not cutting forever,
And
right? You're saying,
right, you're
right.
not
So
cutting
you're not
forever.
cutting calories in perpetuity
And
in your life and
and
just eating like very small amounts forever.
and yes, God wants you to fellowship with people. God wants you to eat with cheerfully and be happy. But some of that might get easier if you say, I can do that, but I can do that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can do that, but it's not going to be as easy right now. I mean, that's the thing about the way I'm eating now is that nothing, just about nothing is off limits. I just say, I can't have that yet, or it's not in today's calories. I mean, now the thing where you have to harden your forehead like flint is if you have a job, they're always trying to fatten you up. I mean, offering you food all the time. It's very nice of them when you say thank you, but no thank you. And you've got to, because no one thinks, oh, we need it. This guy's tracking this stuff. Have to give him 24 hours notice because I could eat it if I had planned for it. But I've already had too many animal crackers because I didn't know this was coming down. This is going to be offered to me.
Crackers.
So
About that.
Yeah, tell us about animal crackers.
Yeah, we've seen you post a lot about animal crackers.
Yeah, a friend of ours at church. I won't say his name because I don't want to violate his privacy. But he told me he got the idea that he thought they were pretty much a pure carb. So obviously, I'm lifting weights, and I've found that losing weight actually makes it harder to lift heavier weights or to keep progressing. So obviously, I do not want to. When I plan a cut, I only want to eat. I mean, it's not like I want to get. When you're in this mindset, you're not like, oh, I want to lose all the weight as fast as possible, or I'm not hungry and I've only had 1,500 calories. Well, that's great. That's great. What a night! I'll look how much weight I'll lose tomorrow. No, you only want to lose. I mean, you only want to restrict your eating as much as you plan. So, of course, at the same time, I don't kind of like, when I'm eating my meals, I don't like. I think, well, what if I'm going to be a little bit hungry later? So anyway, if I have calories left over, I just weigh out the animal crackers, and I often have calories left over. So yeah, animal crackers are like my nightcap. A lot of times.
Nice.
A lot of times. Animal crackers, graham crackers sometimes, they're a little bit more calorically dense, so not as much graham crackers. Mini marshmallows have been known to appear. Whatever. I have a bunch of like just dry. Now, by the way, I eat broccoli and all that other stuff. I'm just saying, broccoli has hardly any calories, so you always have room for the animal crackers then too. So that's it. I mean, I do eat, a lot of protein and a lot of yogurt, and a lot of broccoli, Brussels sprouts, baked potatoes. But yeah, I also have crackers and whatever else I have to do so I can make sure I don't undereat too much.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I was doing. So, and I'll be doing it again in a couple of months. So maybe I'll remember and tell you stuff I forgot about. But as far as how I deal socially with it, but
Sure.
Right now I've been bulking, so it's been pretty easy to like at church meals. I think I've some people have had their eyes widened by how much I had on my plate, but that was because I was trying to gain. So anyway,
That's great. That's great. Okay.
Anything
else?
So what do you wait? Yeah, Jesse, you guys are interviewing me, but you work out. Why don't you talk about what you do?
Yeah, Courtney and I actually both work out. We try to do a regimen of about 4 to 5 days in the gym right now, typically. I might do a home workout as opposed to going to the gym for one of those days. And then we've been doing a lot of walking. We try to walk around 10,000 steps a day. And my fitness pal in really tracking our food, tracking our calories, figuring out, because we're both on a cut right now. We're both cutting. So, yeah, fellowship.
Make sure you sync that up all the time because that'll make for great marital peace.
It's very helpful.
Oh.
We've both acknowledged it would be a lot harder if just one of us was doing it.
It's harder to go over to in-laws or my parents' house or someone from church and be like, oh, I'll eat just a little bit here or whatever, because we're really trying to track and we're trying not to cheat at least as much as possible. Sometimes we have, but Rarely.
I realize, Courtney, I should have fully answered. I realize now I left some stuff out of your question about eating and food. I mean, one of the things is, eating. I'm eating like 4 meals a day, and that's mainly a protein acquisition thing. My understand. Here's another piece of the science, which I'm not a food scientist, or I. But I think this is more true than just I heard this on the internet. I mean, got this from barbell medicine. Um, my understanding is that your body absorbs, like, all right, your body has a dose response to protein. So I'm an old guy. I'm 55, and probably my response is blunted. I'm less protein sensitive than I would be if I was younger. So I want to have a lot of protein at once. Say instead of 20 grams, I want to have 40 grams. Okay. So I get 160 grams of protein a day from like good sources. I also have more protein than that from like because broccoli has protein too, and I don't know whether that should count or not, so I don't count it. I don't know if that's right or not, but anyway. But I want to eat these meals. Apparently, if you like had a protein drip, like it started dripping protein into you like on a regular, like a regular continual feed all day, you would not benefit from that as much as having this kind of a surge of protein. And then your body won't use subsequent protein to do anything that you wanted to do for about 3 hours. So thus, I'm eating 3 meals a day. Oh, the reason I bring that up is because one easy way to adapt to what you said about having these meals is to just not eat anything else until you get there and only, eat 1 meal a day, so to speak. And
Right.
that's probably fine, but that's not how I operate. And so all these things, problem is they become habits and they become neuroses, and so that's what I do. But I basically I want to the takeaway from that might be more applicable to anyone else is that snacking is kind of a bad idea.
Hmm.
And I do think that if people just ate meals, like they said, I'm going to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe one other snack or something, and regularly scheduled it, I think then they could actually, once you do that, then controlling the size, portions, you can make other alterations from there. You can't really the grazing thing. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if people would do that and get all their food, eat a lot, eat enough to satisfy them, eat it not eat to lose weight, just eat enough without having this habit of chips and cookies and stuff. I mean, other than the dessert or with the meal they eat, all right. I think that would go a long way to helping them when they wanted to do something to control it. They would have more control over it, and that
Yeah.
would be without necessarily tracking. I mean, just saying, oh, I'm going to have a protein centered meal, you know, a vegetable, doing that kind of stuff. If you got used to eating that way, then you can make other alterations, and it wouldn't be such a fundamental revolution in what you're used to. So anyway, I mean, maybe that was a digression. I thought that it seemed related to something you'd asked. Anyway, so you say no. So you have a home workout. You have a home gym, or you have like dumbbells, or what do you have?
Yeah. So we have a gym that we go to, and we go typically 4 days a week. And then on a fifth day, like on a Saturday, I do some dumbbells, body weight kind of stuff at home in the basement.
So where did you get your plan from?
Right now I'm on a plan using an app called the Strong app. And so I log all of the workouts that I do, all of the weight, various body parts that I'll do.
Okay,
So, on Monday I'll have a shoulder day. On Tuesday I have back and buys.
all
Um,
right.
so I
See,
have
now
different
that's
days where I break down body parts and things. I'm not into all of just the, you know, what you're doing with the barbells and things like that. I think it's awesome. I think it's great, and I'm interested in it. That's not how my workout is regimented right
right.
now.
So you see, this is how I've grown as a person. That I think that's an actually fine thing to do, and I might, like I said, I was doing something like that during my bulk, but that was like a sea change for me, and it's kind of humbling, because I started realizing that maybe if I had just taken a break from the barbell and done like some more bulking up kind of strength training from time to time, and then gone back to the barbell, that I would be just as strong as my, oh, I'm going to stick with the barbell, no matter what, all the time because that's the only thing that's good and everything else is for losers and all that. All this barbell propaganda I was getting. It was, and I'm repentant. Actually, this is my time to publicly repent. So I think, to me, I think maybe I would say that the barbells give you a closer proxy for total strength as a test.
I can see that.
Like a like a like a deadlift is like, how strong are you? If you can pick up 500 pounds off the floor and stand with it for a minute, or not a literal minute, I mean like a second or two.
Yeah.
You get upright with it, you're pretty strong. Okay, 600, you're stronger. And so, since it is a good test, then if you want to get better at the test, the best way to study for a test is to basically study to the test, right? Take the test. So, a power lifter, for example, that's his thing. He's want to get his highest score on his lifts. He's going to have to practice those lifts because that's what he's going to have to get to do. And, if you do dumbbells, yeah, you can say your muscles get big, but at the same time, how strong are you? But it's kind of question bearing because there really is no test for strength. I mean, I said what I said about them being the closest you can come. The fact is, there's no such thing as general strength. You kind of get strong at what you're doing,
Right.
right? So whatever you get better at the exercise you're doing. So, and then the question is, well, how much does it transfer over? Well, no one knows. I mean, how much better am I at manhandling a lawnmower into the trunk of my car when I can deadlift 250 versus when I can deadlift 275? Who knows? I mean, it's just so, being jacked is kind of a good stand in for strength as well. I mean,
Right.
being muscular, that's all I mean. So anyway, all these things are awesome. I already told you about the kind of math thing I did where I realized everything was twice as easy,
Oh yeah.
supposedly, because
Yeah.
and everything was easier. I mean, but I don't know the numbers really made any difference. I mean, in that regard.
It's because you're
So
killing it, Mark. You're killing it.
I'm not killing
You
it,
are
man. My
grinding it
deadlift has
away every
retrograde,
day.
but I'm gonna try. But my point is, so all these things are available if you can stay motivated.
Yeah.
You see, if you can stay motivated and get the habit, then any of these things work. As long as we're talking about resisting, kind of resisting weight, getting stronger, you can. I mean, I like viewing it just as movements rather than as muscle parts, but that's really just a preference. It's really
Sure.
not necessary. And I think that's great that you're doing that. How long have you been doing this?
I've been going to the
Both of you.
gym since I was 15, maybe something like that. It wasn't until fairly recent, though, that I really looked at the food intake and all of that to
Right.
figure out, oh, wait a minute, I need to be eating XYZ and this many calories to actually lose weight and to do that. For me, I have always loved the endorphin rush. For me, workout was a hobby. That's what you got into it for. For me, it was about how good I feel when I work out and then do a little bit of jogging afterwards or running or mountain
Yeah.
stairmaster or whatever. Just that those endorphins are very important. They really do, and they have made me feel way better as just a person to, live life.
We're
Yeah,
just druggies, aren't we?
yeah, that's right. In the end, we're wannabe druggies, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't.
No side effects. Though. I should add one thing, by the way, since we're talking about health and we talk about transformation in general. One of the things that I started doing after I was into strength training was I told you I started walking, and we bought a dog that was a Jack Russell Terrier, who is my fifth child, and I had to walk him to keep him from chewing up the furniture. I mean, as a
Sure.
puppy. So I suddenly learned to take a 5K walk. I mean, also during the lockdown. I mean, what
Yeah.
else could you do, right? You had to
Yeah.
walk outside and laugh at the people outside with masks on.
Yep.
So
That's right. That's
walked
right.
a lot, walked a lot. That's when I was starting to lose weight. And I should tell you one thing. When I added to strength training, this calorie control you're talking about, and walking a lot, and
Mhm.
also when I started doing my programs, it wasn't just, oh, I want to have a great 1 rep max. I want to do 5, no more. I mean, I started doing multiple, you know, lifting a barbell, like doing a set of 10. That was kind of a strange move for me at one point. Anyway, I don't know what it was that made the switch, but suddenly my blood pressure, which had always been borderline high, like pre-hypertension, it went down into normal, and it stayed there ever since.
Wow.
So I can't say that one or what combination of things did that, but a lot of these things, I think, actually, I've heard there's evidence, I think, somewhere that buying a dog is something that can majorly change your health outcome because of the walking that you have to do.
Well, having 5
So
small children like we do also gets you moving.
yeah, well, yeah, if you're walking with them and being outside, but
Yeah.
not everyone does that, so it's good just to walk.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I should add some kind of hit thing, on a recline bike or something, but when I have more time. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's
doing what I
good.
do.
That's good.
I'm sorry. So any other questions?
No, I think that's it. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. It's very helpful. Mainly just find what motivates you and get started.
Yes.
Just do something.
Yes, get started and make progress. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
That's
thank you
right.
very much for helping me through this. Maybe I'll figure out how to put this in more organized fashion someday, but I liked talking to you about this. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You were great, Mark. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Love of Life podcast, Conversations with Jesse and Courtney.
It is our duty through our schools to create a new one, a God-centered one. We are told in Proverbs 8, verses 35 and 36, "For whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death."